Good morning. Good morning, ladies, gentlemen. Good morning. Good morning, researchers. Have we got researchers? Absolutely. Have we got industry leaders? There. Just one? No, you're kidding me. This is not the right start. Only one? No, there are more. We know. Good morning, AI enthusiasts. I think that's a title which fits you all. Good morning. It's great to have you all, and a very special and warm welcome to you all joining us via the live stream. We know that you were not able to be with us here today, but no worries, because we are connected. So it's great to have you, and you will be able to follow the program, and you will find back the schedule on the website. So we will meet up later on, also in the various tracks later on in the program. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Simon van Trier. I'm delighted to be your moderator just for this morning session and in the end of the afternoon. And what we are going to do during this summit here today? We're going to define, we're going to explore where we do stand with AI. AI, vital for a sustainable world. What does that mean? Because it sounds perfect, but what does it mean in our day-to-day reality? That is what we will be focusing on today. And there is a wonderful program ahead of us, and quite a tight time schedule, so there is no time to waste. So without further ado, I'm delighted to introduce Carlo van der Weijer to you, General Manager from the Eindhoven AI System Institute. And I would like to invite you, Carlo, just to set the scene from this very first AI summit organized by so many partners. So please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and also on behalf of the organization and the hub here and all the partners organizing this, a very big welcome. Also to the industry leader. Where is he? We have the... Okay. I was sitting beside Martijn van Kruijthuis. He said, rightfully so, said there can only be one leader, so that fits the sum. So thank you for being here, and for not being too modest, because that's also things we have to learn a little bit over here. But a sincere thank you for showing up at first, because you probably know and noticed that around this time there are about a gazillion summits and conferences to choose from. It's berserk what's happening. That's some catching up of the last 2 years. You can choose amongst a lot of things. And I know from a lot of other events that they had to cancel actually because there was hardly any show up. And yeah, we also have to do a little bit of work in between. So that's understandable. But gladly you showed up here. For some reason you also echoed that we think that this AI, especially for a sustainable world, and it's so important also for the region and for the country, and also as an item. And although there's not a real fixed definition of AI, there's something like a burst term around it. So maybe, hopefully you will also learn a little bit what it's exactly about. Because yeah, AI, artificial intelligence, is intelligence that's helping us to leverage our own intelligence. Which is on itself not new. Humankind always came up with machines. It's actually what made us human, that we can have the strength of machines helping us to be this champion of the species or what have you. But the thing is that in the beginning, the machines helped our arms and legs, and at a certain moment we came up with ideas to also leverage our brains. And that's also not something very new. That's actually writing things down. We did that in order to actually strengthen our memory, to be able to remind things and also to carry over ideas. So that started with writing. And it was Aristotle who said that this writing might not be such a good idea back then. He said we might have to forbid this, because if people start writing things down, they don't have to remember it anymore, so people will get dumber because of this writing. And he had a point. And he also said it's very dangerous, this writing down, because you can also spread around dangerous and wrong ideas to other people, make them believe, and he had a point there as well. Yet we didn't stop with just storing all our ideas, and that's a good thing, because we got all this science because of that, and we could also carry out, even if we were not there anymore, our ideas were still around. And this just continued. And at a certain moment we digitized it, and we invented these punch cards to even store more memory on a device. And we came up with new papers, so we could drill more holes in a card, so there were more memory. And at a certain moment, we had only holes left actually, and there was no card anymore. And we thought, okay, this is the end. Now we don't get any more intelligence anymore. And then we came with the switch relay systems that could store memory. And after that, we had the glass tube transistors that could even do more calculations. And after that, we had the transistors, and now we have the silicon on chip. So it is continuing, and there will be technologies after that as well. Now, strikingly, it's actually of all these technology that I just mentioned, and let not be too modest and just follow the leader in this. It's a lot of these technology that I just mentioned, the transistors, especially the glass tube and the silicon on chip. It is a kind of big role we're playing here in the region. And now that we are talking about this next step, and also AI, using this AI in order to come up with this next step, it's a next step in technology. It is important that we, again, play the game. Because when we were the leaders in the glass tube transistors, we were maybe world champion. We didn't sit back and relax and think, okay, let's enjoy this championship. No, we started investing again in the transistors and the silicon chip that came afterwards. And again, now we as a region also should do this, because it's happening anyhow with or without us, and it will happen faster with us and better. And then we come to the sustainable part. Because it might scare you that this exponential development that we're talking about, we call it Moore's law, but as I said, it goes back to prehistoric ages also, always, almost. But this exponential development often scares people, and this goes with any statistics that you see. If you see meat consumption, energy consumption, CO2, it always is an exponential development, and it always scares you how we're going to crash into the roof with this kind of development. And what these kind of world problems that are always threatening us with climate, be climate or what have you, it's always with this world problem I see about 3 strategies how to cope with that. And the first strategy that is quite popular amongst some people is that just deny it, or something, things will go out. God will come and save us, or the earth will be resilient, or what have you. So do nothing, just hope for the best. That's not a good strategy. Let's not talk too much about that one. The second one is that we should maybe do a little bit more modest, degrowth, consuming less, that kind of stuff. And yes, that's always good to be a little bit scarce on resources because of prudent on resources, but the thing is, it's not going to save us. It's just maybe give us a little bit extra time. Let's do the max. If you just spend 10% less energy, you still have to solve the 90%. And it's almost a per definition we still have, and that's because, for instance, I consume a lot less in encyclopedias and CDs, etc., because there's a technology development that came up with a better solution to that one. And that's all time to history. If something appears not to be sustainable, then we come up with technology that might have its problems as well, but these problems are much smaller than the problem that you solve. And then you start solving that problem again. That's what technology and innovation always did. We always innovated ourselves out of trouble in order to prevent that things remain sustainable. Because not all development is sustainable at this moment, and something that's not sustainable will end in the end per definition. That's what sustainable actually, how it's defined in the dictionary. So just ending on that, and that's why it's so important that we find each other here to come up with this next step of technology, and that we again play a role, because we are the machine builders around here, and you will be hearing more about that as well. And here are people of different competences, where I hope that today, and therefore we have a very tough chairwoman and moderator today to stick to the time, because it's the breaks where the ideas will come up. So we hope that we inspire you. We have the research track with people from university, and it's a big program. It's a good program, and we hope that maybe one idea today will pop up, and that we further continue that, and maybe it's a few more, that we again will find something in order to prevent that things get out of the hand. Because yeah, let's be techno-optimists, at least for a day today, and come up with one extra idea. In order to provoke these ideas, we have, and that's a special tip, we have a couple of student teams here, 6, 7 student teams from Fontes and from the Technical University Eindhoven. It's always nice to talk to them, and they're so happy to talk to you with your experience, so try to exchange knowledge, especially from them. And so all the ingredients are there in order to hopefully a new idea is born again here on the strip, where all this intelligence already happened in the last century, or at least the last decades. And let's also keep this techno-optimism. With all technology ever invented, there was always a shadow side on it. There was always a sharp angle. With the fire, it was nice to heat our houses and to cook our food, but we could burn our houses, etc. With bricks, you can build houses, but you can also smash someone's face with a brick. Now, a million times more, a gazillion times more bricks are used to build houses instead of smashing faces. So make sure that also with this very technology, this very powerful technology, we use it for the better. Again, thanks for being here, and let's make this a very, very productive day. Good luck and enjoy.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, Carlo, for setting the scene. Yes, bricks. Did anybody use it for different reasons than just building houses? I just do wonder, but it's so true. All those black angles from all kinds of innovations. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to introduce to you some of the representatives from the partners who, with each other, do form the Brainport, the AI Brainport network. Because it is very important that once you are not maybe linked to them or connected to them, that you know at least who they are, what they are up to, and how you can find them. So after today, that their names and their voices will be known. And we are delighted to have to start with the first one, Martijn van Gruithuizen, with us. He is the Vice Governor for Economic Affairs, Finance, Knowledge and Talent Development for the province of Noord-Brabant. Please step forward and join me on stage if I may invite you. Then we have Patricia Jaspers, from the Managing Director at EASY. So please join us as well. We know that EASY facilitates, stimulates and shares the knowledge when it comes to AI. Then we have Floor Michel Swinkels from the AI Hub Brainport. Wonderful to have you. And then finally, Kees. Where is Kees van der Klauw? Kees, at row number 2, please. The manager at the Dutch AI Coalition, which is very strongly related, of course, to Floor. Now, what happened with the flag over here? Because this is a strange sight for me, to have Kees hidden behind something, behind the scenes, yes, and we would love to have you in front, of course. Martijn van Gruithuizen, welcome. It's good to have you here at the Strip at this AI Summit here today. Of course, we do wonder when it comes to AI technology, what the authorities, the provincial authorities in this case, can add to this. What is your idea? What are the ambitions, I would say, from what we call the provinciehuis in 's-Hertogenbosch when it comes to AI?
Well, thank you very much. It's great to be here, first of all. And I hope that the next time you have new leaders and the next generation leaders, so we don't depend on just one, Carlo. Well, the province of Noord-Brabant, well, I think that the province is, or the businesses and our institutions are innovation leaders. And we are very proud of that. So that brings a responsibility for our provincial board. And we don't want to sit down and sit still. We want to get further, like just mentioned. We don't sit still. So we have a responsibility to stay that innovation leader, and technology is key to that. And we have to stay ahead of our other regions in the Netherlands and in Europe. And we invest in the data economy. And AI is one of the key technologies that is very important. We have, of course, a well-organized economy. The businesses are, in general, doing fine. But, for instance, we don't have enough employees. Mm-hmm. So we have to improve our productivity. And that's how our small, medium-sized enterprises and our employees really can improve their productivity when they use key technologies such as AI
solutions, or
photonica, or other technologies, and those are very important for us.
Okay. That later on, I would like to hear what you then, in practical sense, you really can add to achieving these goals. Because I was wondering, Patricia, when the Vice Governor says here, of course, we need to improve productivity, but at the other hand, we should try to have sufficient staff AI-enabled people in the region before we are able to come up with all these bright solutions to improve productivity, I assume.
Yes. Yeah, so exactly, and I also see there a task for the university, of course. So as EASY, we also have we aim to have at least 300 bachelor students, AI-enabled bachelor students annually. The same goes for the number of master students and, of course, also professionals.
But these numbers are the numbers you are able to manage, because I'm afraid we need more than that.
We need far more than that. So there's also the ambition of the university, of course, to have a skill jump. So to have twice the number of students educated. So the same goes for AI-enabled engineers. And also we need staff as a university. So it's a common problem, actually, we need to tackle.
Yeah.
But yeah, certainly.
And also for those reasons, it's important to have that AI network in Brainport to get this done. Because maybe I jump to Floor first, because from the hub floor, I can imagine you try to align with the other partners in order to achieve the ambitions we all have together. How does that work?
Well, we have about 7 AI hubs in the Netherlands as part of the Netherlands AI Coalition. And these hubs are sort of the regional branches of the National AI Coalition. And there we work at the deployment of AI technology. And I like a more informal definition of the Brainport AI Hub better, because actually we are just a group of AI enthusiasts. And we are determined to work together on accelerating the development, the application, but also the adoption of AI technology in Brabant. So that's why we share a common agenda and why we work together. So in the opening, you were welcomed as AI enthusiasts. So I would also like to welcome you to join this network and this hub, so that we can together accelerate this development.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for that invitation. Kees, how are we doing in the Netherlands with AI? Where do we stand?
I'm a bit paranoia, so I think scientifically we're doing quite okay. But in terms of applications, I think we're behind. We've all seen the impact of the big techs in the world. And people should realize that AI is not for the future. AI is everywhere. Yeah. Kids are using it in their mobile phones. Doctors are using it. Navigation is using it. It's everywhere already. So the world is transforming, and I very much like what you say, enthusiast. This is a people's job. It's not only about technology. It's a massive transformation, and the WRR, the Scientific Council for the Government, has stated that. It's a transformational technology, which means that it's impacting society, and that's why it's people's work. Not just technology, it's people's work to adopt AI, to look at human-centric AI, to apply it in many fields, and not just for efficiency improvement, but also for complete new business models and sustainability. And that's why we work together in a regional network as well as on a national level.
Yeah. Patricia, often when it comes to AI in the Netherlands, it's said that one of the characteristics is that it is a human-centric AI. Is that what you think it is? Is that what makes this special and reason to work hard for?
Yeah, I certainly think so. I think it's important that we keep the drive to stay ahead of things, indeed, as Kees is also saying, because we are focusing on human-centered AI, explainable AI, responsible AI. That's not self-evident in all places of the world. So sometimes government is in charge, or industry is pulling the AI development. And I think here in the Netherlands and Europe, the human is far more central to it, the individual and or individual rights as well. Yeah. So I think that responsibility and doing AI in an ethical way is really something we could, we should keep close at heart.
Yeah. Martijn, maybe we could have some more words on how, because Kees was saying, technically we are doing quite okay, but really to come up with the solutions applicable there where they are needed, that's quite a long way. And then not often, sometimes, let's put it mildly, they say because there are so many hurdles on our way, for example, given by the government, they do not take it seriously enough or whatever. Then what is your response to that? How does this work?
Well, of course, it makes sense what he says. Because like Carlo already mentioned in his statement, there are also some dark sides. Yeah. So we as government have to have to provide that it's sustainable, but we don't want to miss the opportunities on the other side. So we have to find a balance with that, and so we do that with the Dutch government, of course, and the Dutch government does that together with the provinces also in Brussels. So that's how we build it up. But that's, and we as a province, on the other hand, try to develop and support projects, for instance, like AI for Everyone. So that our employees, our citizens, our kids really understand what AI means and how they can work with AI. So that is one project that we really support. We really support with our data coaches how our small and medium-sized enterprises really can work with AI. Yeah. And that they understand that, because we really think that it's human-centered, and the algorithms are known to the users, yeah, and where they can find it. Yeah, transparency. And of course, that the data coaches, that we make progress in that. Yeah. And of course, in a business way, because it's not a dirty word, business, we really supported in the last 2 years, I think already 110, 120 startups, especially in data and AI. Yeah. So that's...
Also, as a province, you have a true data program.
Yes, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if we look back 10 years ago, then you wouldn't have thought of having such a severe program, because it's all, in a way, quite new.
Well, it's really a jump ahead in the future without knowing that what's going to happen. Yeah. Well, we make coalitions as a province together with all our partners in the province. How we gonna have a profit for over 10 years? Yeah. So, and that's a long way, but we don't know how the province of the business or the world looks like in 10 years.
We don't know. No.
But we have to start. We have to start, and we do that always together in the province of Nov02. We start with klooien en pielen, like we say.
I cannot
that.
translate that
no,
one.
Just
try on Google.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how we go ahead, and that's how we supported photonics. Well, now support AI, etc., etc. It starts in the barn or in the head of a student or the group students, and we have to support that.
Great. Kees, when we talk about those hubs, those AI hubs in the country, would you say that the country is well covered now with the AI hubs, and aren't they competing among each other? Because when I see from the world scale, we are such a small country. Do we need so many hubs? I mean, what? Oh, is this a painful one? Oh, sorry.
No, I think, first of all, you're fully right. We shouldn't compete. Because we are a very small country. Yeah? If you go from the south to the north, I think it's twice the diameter of the agglomerate Shanghai. So what are you talking about? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yet connecting people still is a matter of having a network that goes into the veins of the Netherlands. So if you organize something in The Hague, our headquarters is in The Hague. I think people will not come to The Hague except for protests. Yeah. If you want, yeah. If you want to organize something, you have to get out of The Hague and go to the region. And we decided a few years ago, hey, there are strong powers of organization in the region, and Brainport is definitely one of them. So why not connect to Brainport? The only thing was, it was not high on the agenda, AI. Brainport is very strong in mechatronics, in electronics, so you could say that advantage could also put a brake on new developments, and that's what we try to bring in, and excellent cooperation with these enthusiasts. Hey, get your act together because AI is coming. That's the issue with exponential development. Yeah. It's small, it's 2 times small, 3 times small, but at a certain moment, it gets across the horizon, and then you're too late.
Yeah. So. Okay, thank you. Floor, you kindly invited us all in just a while ago to be part of the hub. Now, are there specific partners you are still missing, or that you say, well, because you have everybody here today, a full day, so who would you really like to attract?
We would really like to attract you all, because the challenges are so big that we need to have everyone on board. So it's from industry leaders, industry SMEs, startups, all companies, we need them all. We need all educational institutes, all development agencies, so we need all the hands that we can get. We need government on board, so local, we need them nationally. So I think that we need you all, because challenges are too big, and that's why we don't feel the competition, but we really need to collaborate to do this as a nation, as a whole.
Yeah, great. Yeah?
By the way, there's nothing wrong in stating that I have not a clue at the moment what to do with AI. It is new for everyone, but by joining forces, you will find out what AI can do for you.
Quite some people here know, or they have an idea. So yeah. Patricia, give me just some words on the role, the added value from universities and knowledge institutes when it comes to finally jumping to solutions, not only the research and the technologies, but also the translations towards the market.
Yeah, so I think it's really great that we have found such alignment in this ecosystem with industry partners, other collaborative partners in the Brainport region to align our agendas. And that's really fantastic, I think. So at EASY, we apply multidisciplinary research. So we approach these problems, these issues we commonly acknowledge in a multidisciplinary manner. And well, this knowledge creation also needs to be tested in practice, right? So therefore, we also need a lot of use cases. And I think that really creates a strong impact if we can collaborate on that. Because theoretical knowledge remains theoretical, right? Unless you apply it in real practice. You get real impact.
Great, to translate it into practice, yeah. Wonderful. Well, thank you so very much. I hope you do have a little insight, a little more insight of how the Brainport network is what it is all about. Who are their representatives? Because as from now, they are known. And I hope that you will find your way to them during the day. So I do thank you very much for your contribution. And I'm going to introduce our first keynote speaker. Give a warm hand of applause for Martijn, Patricia, Floor and Kees. Thank you so much. Yeah, please. Thank you, Martijn. Wonderful. So, there we started. And now I'm going to introduce to you, and she's here with us, first row, and I'm delighted to introduce to you Imke de Jong. She is the Data and AI Partnership Lead at Philips Innovation and Strategy. And we know, of course, that healthcare is facing huge challenges. Just think about the shortages in staff. Think about the aging population. Think about yourself and your changing expectations when it comes to your healthcare needs. But then we do wonder, how do you cope with that? How can we make data and AI, how can we translate it into solutions? So, I'm going to give Imke the floor. Please step forward, because you were willing, that's what we checked on forehand, to share with us some of your insights in the challenges you are facing in scaling up data and AI, in finding the solutions we will all benefit from in the future. So, Imke de Jong, floor is completely yours. Take it.
Coming here to the Brainport AI Summit. I'm very proud to be part of this summit because I feel very much a Brainporter myself. But before we go to my background, I'm very curious. I see a very big crowd over here. Who of you is working in healthcare and data and AI in healthcare? Good, quite a lot of people, so happy to see that. So maybe very quick, who am I? I'm working at Philips currently. I also have been studying in Eindhoven, live here now for almost 15 years. I've been studying biomedical engineering. I've been working as a data scientist in IT, insurance, and then currently indeed data and AI partnerships lead at Philips. And besides that, I'm a very big sports fan. I've been going to PSV matches last few weeks, and I was inspired by the team sport of seeing PSV win from Arsenal. And I'm happy to show you also how I see that coming back in digital transformation. Maybe very quick, I hear a few people laugh. Are there more PSV fans over here? Ah, luckily, I'm not alone. Thanks. So let's first step into healthcare. Because as just said by Simone, we are in a very difficult spot for healthcare. which is then not funny. So if we look to the current situation, we have more and more patients coming up, more older patients. Older patients also mean more complex disease patterns. At the same time, we also do see that we have a shortage of staff. We all saw that in COVID, and that's not becoming less. It's still there. And then also at the same time, we see the costs are rising. So that's not a very good package that we have currently. And on the other side, we do see that we do have a little bit a different engagement with our own health, which is increasingly being done by ourselves. Who of you is wearing currently a health watch? AI crowd, so indeed, quite a lot of people. And who of you is Googling their symptoms before you go to a GP? Yeah, almost everybody. Yeah, imagine going to a GP 15 years ago that you just said, hey, I have a headache and I don't feel good. Currently, we can just Google what potentially it can be. So for a GP, that's very much a different relationship that you have. And if we look to the current situation with sustainability, it's also not a happy place that we are at. So for healthcare services, half of the world population is lacking access to essential healthcare services. Currently, we're using 1.7 times the Earth's resources, so we're very much over-consuming. And if we are continuing doing that, by 2050 it will even be doubled. And we really need to work towards the the carbon reduction to get to our 1.5 degrees global warming target. So that together makes it we really need to work right now. There's no time left. We really need to act. I'm not here to only tell a sad story. Luckily, there are opportunities. So if you look to healthcare, data, the amount of data is growing. Research also finds out that by 2025, every year data will grow by 36%. So that's a lot. And if I look to healthcare data, you can also make some groups about that, some categories. So if you look to healthcare particularly, we always think about hospital healthcare. So typically that's imaging data, patient monitoring data, pathology, genomics. But healthcare is also about the home situation. So the data that we collect at home, for example, with the smartwatches, but also with some home monitoring devices. So that's, I think, the first category that we can make. Another category or grouping that we can make, which I think is also interesting to discuss today with you, is the difference between the legacy data, so the data that always has been collecting, for example, with EMR, with patient registration. That data is not created for us to directly create AI on top of it. So what we need to do with that data is really clean it up for it to be ready for AI. And I think with digital transformation, you also see a new type of data popping up. Data that we create, that we collect, because we want to do analytics on top of that. So that starting point is easier because you have more clean data. And I think also if you discuss different solutions in data and AI, you do see those different categories. I will show you some examples later on. If I then speak to some of the clinicians and healthcare providers in my daily job, what I hear a lot is, well, we now have a lot of data, but that's not directly helping us. And I think that's very well explained also by E.O. Wilson. He is saying we are drowning in information while starving for wisdom. So data on itself is not a solution. And that is, I think, where AI comes in. So with AI, we can lend the healthcare providers and the patients a helping hand to make sense out of all this data. So AI is then the tool that we can use to create insights out of all the data. But I think very important, we talk a lot about AI. AI is not a solution on itself. AI is a tool that we use to solve problems. So let's make sure that we all use that tool very wisely to solve those problems that we just discussed in the beginning of the presentation. Let's dive into a few examples. So how can data and AI then help for a more vital and sustainable world? This is a first example. This is a typical example of the legacy data that I just showed you. So data that has been collecting with the EMR, and this is called Patient Flow Capacity Suite. Data is coming from different departments inside the hospital, so really at the hospital situation, and coming together into one screen. And then with AI, we can then create optimization of the planning of the patient, and thereby also optimization of the resource planning of the staff in the hospital. So such a solution is really helping with the resource constraints that we currently do have, but also helping the patient to have more effective planning towards the hospital. Then this is another example. And this is a typical example of the home situation. We always say healthcare, right? We don't say sick care. So I think healthcare is very important that we identify that we need to prevent people to go to the hospital. So with home monitoring and home systems, we can also help people with chronic diseases. So if a patient is at home, he still can have his information, his direct contact with a clinical expert, and then he can also adhere to the therapy and achieve the health goals. With more prediction or more prevention of this patient at home, he does not need to go to the hospital. And that is, I think, also a very nice step towards how digital can help with a more sustainable world, which is not always something that we directly connect, right? But it definitely is helping. So with the new digital solutions, we can, for example, move towards remote monitoring. And with remote monitoring, people can just stay at home, have contact, and only go to the hospital when it's really needed. And within the Netherlands, of course, small distances, not that much a difference, but every small thing helps. But imagine in the US, where you need to sometimes drive for 2, 3, 4, 5 hours to go to the expert that you need. That's a very big difference. And I think the second example is towards, currently we have a lot of hardware, so we are over-consuming the resources we have. And also with some digital solutions, we can have less hardware and more digital. So we can also definitely help with more efficient use of hardware by using digital solutions. Those were a couple of examples of data now in healthcare. But unfortunately, we are not there yet. We do face a couple of challenges in healthcare, which I think is also nicely lined out by this graph. And I think Kees also just explained. We are very good in publications, but how to move towards the implementation. This is a graph from a publication which is evaluating publications on and solutions on acute care. So a very quick explanation, of course, on the x-axis you see the time, and on the y-axis you do see the technology readiness level. With the technology readiness level on top is where we have the proof of concepts, the one-ups, and the technology readiness levels totally below is where we have the implementation. And what you do see is indeed, we have more and more solutions. That's a good thing. However, what we would like to have, the desired movement, is those solutions to really be implemented. Because if it's implemented, if it's scaled out to multiple institutes, we can really help with the challenge that we face right now. What is then the reason that we are not there yet? I will discuss a couple of the challenges that we face on a day-to-day basis. Not all of them, that's difficult, but just some of them. With one of them, this one. So currently we have a lot of small and non-diverse data sets. That leads also to bias in AI. So who of you is creating algorithms or had a publication or a study where in a discussion you said that with more data, the results would have been better? Yeah, a lot of people, indeed. It's something that we do a lot, right? And that is something very important now in healthcare. It's a very big need on data. And you do see two movements coming up. You see the movement of commercial players making data available and selling data, which I think is not helping with the bias prevention of AI. I mean, if we really want to prevent bias, we should make data more widely available for everybody, not only for them who can pay for the data. That's why I'm very happy that I also see another movement coming up, which is what I call data democratization. So, for example, NIH, one of the biggest institutes of subsidy in the US, is arguing for sharing data publicly. Even more, in 2023, they make it mandatory. So no choice, if you get funding from NIH, you need to share your data publicly. Also, the Dutch Institute SON and MW is also arguing for data making publicly available, fair data principles, and data management. Even on European level, we are working on Gaia X and also European health data spaces to make data more publicly available. From Philips' perspective, I think an interesting example of that we are part of is the MIMIC database. The MIMIC database is one of the biggest ICU databases that is publicly available, and that's a collaboration of Philips, MIT, and Bet Israel. So we also work together with different players to make data publicly available. It's not an easy step to make, but I think it's crucial for us to create bias-free algorithms. You need different players for that, so indeed government, you need healthcare IT providers, you do need scientists, you do need data scientists, you do need hospitals, of course, for the data. A lot of people need to work together, but it's the only way for us to really make that step for bias-free algorithms. But I already hear you thinking, nice, make data publicly available, but hey, privacy. So who of you is having nightmares on GDPR? Well, not a lot of people, sleepless nights. Okay, who of you is then having discussions on GDPR in your daily basis? More people. Well, happy that you don't have sleepless nights. That's not very healthy. And we already have pressure on healthcare, so that's good. So, GDPR, of course, we discuss a lot on that, on legal and privacy and processes. I think for today, having an AI crowd, also interesting to see what can we do with technology towards privacy. There are a few examples where technology can also help with more privacy-preserving technologies. An example of that, federated learning and synthetic data. Federated learning being an infrastructure where the data stays on site, and you only bring your algorithm to the data. And then if you have different nodes, you can train your algorithm on site towards different data sets. And thereby, indeed, no person is processing the data on itself. Synthetic data, a topic that I'm working on currently quite actively, is where we create a synthetic copy of real data. Thereby, it's not real data, so GDPR is not applicable. For now, I think it's on top of the hype cycle, so we are checking out how can we best use it. So how can we really identify quality synthetic data, especially clinical quality? How can we identify that indeed the outliers really are outliers and not being still personal data? Are there more people here working on federated learning and synthetic data and/or? Yeah, good. So just we saw a lot of hands having, well, discussions on GDPR, but the people working on privacy-preserving methods are also in the crowd. So hey, the solution might be closer than you think. And then I think a third challenge, adoption of data and AI in a clinical workflow. And for me, this is one of the most important ones, because we can create very good technology, very good algorithms. It can even be the best precise algorithm that we have. But if nobody is using it, we will never get to that implementation phase. And I think that's also very well explained by our CTO of Philips, Henk van Houten. The hardest part is getting that technology to work in a way that is accepted, trusted, and embraced by people. And for me, that's very important that we see that for everything we do in data and AI, we do have the end user, the healthcare professional, in that process from day one. In every step you take, you do create technology for a very sensitive and important process. It's not only the technology, but it's definitely also how it will be used. And that's why I'm also proud to be part of the Eindhoven MedTech Innovation Center. It's a local ecosystem that we have here in Eindhoven, also part of Brainport Eindhoven. And that's where we work with 5 institutes. So we do work with Philips, University of Eindhoven, Catharina Hospital, Maxima Medical Center, and Kempenhagen. And then together with those partners, we have the mission create a fast track for clinical innovation. So how can we work together with those partners to really create that implementation of AI in healthcare? And one of the programs that we have there is called Bench to Bedside. It's a program that we are doing with Catharina Hospital, University of Eindhoven, and Philips, where we work together in very short cycles to really bring technology, specifically data and AI technology, from the bench, from research to the bedside. And what we do there is we co-create in multidisciplinary teams, always have clinicians involved. We have 6 months innovation cycles so we can have an agile way of working, and we do share that knowledge more broadly in MTech. An example of what we do there is this specific project, just to get a little bit more into practice. So this is about geriatric department. In the geriatric department, we have older patients, and older patients do have more risk of falling. And when patients fall in the hospital, it's a big burden, well, for the patient, obviously, but definitely also for the staff. So they need to do a lot of administration, patient stays longer in the hospital, so that's definitely not a good situation. Less falls is very good for the hospital. So what we have been doing with the team, multidisciplinary team in MTech, is we checked out if we can use NLP technologies to read the nursing notes in the hospital, and then check out in the nursing notes if we can identify risks of falling. And if we can find those risks of falling, we can also act earlier. So we have specific prevention articles that we can then implement for the patient so that the risk of falling is going down. So that's just a very practical project that we have been doing in Catharina Hospital. Also happy to see some of the team members here in the crowd that we have been working on. And this is only possible if we indeed have different players working together, like the nurses, the doctors, the data scientists, hospital IT, legal privacy, industry, so a lot of people were involved in that. Then we also go to this slide. Maybe a very quick summary. So what we saw today in this small presentation is we have very urgent needs. Data and AI is definitely a possibility that we can use to solve those urgent challenges that we have. But we are not there yet. So we need to work together to really create that implementation of AI in healthcare. And we saw a couple of challenges. And for all those challenges, we saw that if you want to solve those challenges, we need to work together. And that's not easy. We do see on this slide a lot of players that we need to really solve the challenges in healthcare and in the world. And I think for us today, it's very important that we start to team up. So those players over here, and that's I think also when I was looking into the PSV field towards Arsenal, I saw also a lot of players working together, really create a system. But what I also saw in that field is not all the players are on the field. You also, for example, have the supporters. You have the sponsors. You have the substitute players. You have the supporting staff. A lot of people are part of that bigger game. So that's also what I want to ask you today. Please work together, ask each other what is the role that you want to play in this game. Because we need each other. I truly believe that none of you can solve it alone. So with the coffee or the drinks or the lunch, discuss with each other. How can you work together? So I think that's it for today.
Oh, thank you so very much. Wonderful. Great. Let's team up. What a great presentation. Thank you so very much. And very insightful on how Philips is facing these challenges. Now, we have just a couple of minutes left if there is a question, a remark, a comment, whatsoever. Because I do have a catch box. And you all know what it is. It is a microphone I can throw to you.
Dangerous.
It is dangerous, yes. Now, is there anybody who wants to? Yes, please. You may bring it, you may throw it to the gentleman here in row number 5. Yeah, this will be fun. Woo. Glasses.
Almost.
Yeah. There you go. Please tell us who you are.
Oh, well, does it work?
Yeah, you just talk.
Just talk, okay.
Yeah.
My name is Arjan Den Boer. I was originally a PhD researcher at the TU University.
A little bit closer.
Closer, okay.
Yeah.
Now working at VDL, ETG, high tech. And I was, well, I see, I have perhaps 2 things which could be valuable for more companies here in the region. One is about the learning part. The last slides you showed about the geographic, or what for the older people, whatever the research, looking at root causes, problems, issues, and coming to preventive actions. I think, in essence, what you do is making a model for learning. And if you can have that on a kind of meta level, we could use it also in the job shop we have at VDL, which is very complex. And there we have a lot of projects going on. It's complex. We have a dynamic situation. And I think, we try in our management team to have all those 20, 30, 50, 100 projects managed. And it's difficult for us to understand what are the real root causes, where to start, how to make to get the productivity improved and to make a more profit. Where really should we start? And it's too complex for one person or a team to see. So I'm very interested to, on a more meta level, to see how we can learn in industry to get the productivity and projects focused.
Wow, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I think because it's not directly a question, right? But you do inspire me, because I think if we want to learn together and work together, I think also something that we try to do within Philips. One of the things that is very important that we start to do more on a mature level is knowledge management. And that's not easy. No. I think also within Philips we just started, for example, with data catalog, algorithm catalog, to have collective knowledge, move from that individual knowledge to collective knowledge. And I think that's also something very important that we start to do within Brainport, even within the Netherlands, to really create that collective knowledge on the learnings that we all have, so that we don't need to reinvent the wheels ourselves.
That all the time in all different sectors. Yeah, that's a strong point. Well, thank you so much. Somebody else? Yes, over there. Just throw it just behind you. Yeah. Okay, that's close. Yeah, there you are.
Hey, Imke. I'm Sako, CTO of Foodbench AI. My question, you shared a lot about sharing data and being open and a few technologies in which we can do so. And we've spoken about this before. Like the problem is, for example, Philips doesn't own this data. Often it's owned by the hospitals or even before that by for the patients. How, for example, in collaborations like MTech, do you disclose this data? And is it also possible for other organizations to join? Or are you still in the stage that this data is really, well, people can't use it anymore outside of these strict collaborations?
I think it's a very important question to ask, definitely. I think also if we look to MTech, for example, but I think all research studies, we spend a lot of time and money on collecting the data. So we really need to discuss with each other, how can we then also make that more collective resources? So I think it's not only a question to Philips, but definitely to everybody of us, to really think about how we can best do that. Because it's a pity if we ask the patients...
What is your idea in how to best do this?
Start with just a data catalog. And I see that already coming up with Health Array, for example. With MTech, we're working on that, so that we at least know on the metadata what we do. On a project level, we can then discuss how to best share that. Yeah. I think that's the best first start.
That's the best first step. Yeah, great. Thank you. Just one final question, and then I will introduce the next keynote speaker. Yes, the lady who's standing over there. Yep. Wow. Wow.
Working well. Hi, everybody. Patricia Monte. I run a company in the GovTech space in healthcare. I have a statement I love sharing in conferences. In the US, they innovate, and they turn unicorn out of those innovations. The emerging globe takes it, make it affordable, and run it in its population that often doesn't have enough infrastructure. And you know what the EU does? They put regulation around everything. How much regulation is creating fear in the society? Because fear is what stops us from embracing it, and I want you to address that topic and maybe talk to the government and what they can do.
Yeah. Do you recognize?
I can only applaud for that.
Well, thank you so much for your contribution, yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you all. I'm going to introduce the next keynote speaker. Just one warm applause, a hand of applause for Imke. Yeah. Great. Now I'm going to introduce to you Rob Elsinga. Welcome, good morning, National Technology Officer at Microsoft NTO. We are really curious to find out. For example, there are so many questions, like we had also so many questions to Imke, but for example, the potential of digital twins, but also how about Katina X? What does it bring us, and what could we expect even more from it? And maybe just start first with data and metaverse, because there you will address some words to that as well. And you promised me, so I'll keep you to that you will present some cool stuff. Okay?
Thank you very much, and thank you, Imke, for giving this presentation. I really like it. So what I like to do today, and let me see if I can, which button? Ah, here, it's the other side. What I would like to do today, and what I've included in my story, is first start off with digital twins and the metaverse. And I definitely don't want to pretend that I already know what the metaverse means, but I would like to start with a short video, a 3-minute video, where we have thought about what it could like for industry. So metaverse can be something for gaming, for individuals, but it can also mean something for industry, and how we can apply it to, for example, for sustainability. I want to take you along in how we look at data, because if you look at AI, it's very important that you have the right algorithms to do the smart stuff, but it's also how you treat data, and I have some examples how we look at that, and how we like to bring data together in what we call the digital feedback loop. As mentioned already, and also in the example of Imke, was Gaia X, and Katina X is the implementation of Gaia X for the automotive industry, and has a connection with the smart connected supplier network here in the region in Eindhoven. So I like to show you how I see that come together. And then finally, I like to close off with some cool stuff and actually show you where we are and compare that to the video that I started off with. My last slide can be a little bit messy, so maybe if the people from the technicians can turn the audio a little bit down there, because it has embedded videos, and I like to run quickly through them. So starting off with the video.
Hospitals, factories, entire cities, and the billions of devices that connect us to this world and to each other. This is the physical world. But what if we can replicate that physical world into its digital twin? A digital twin that is bound to the physical world in real time, that we can experience in mixed reality, that we can collaborate with, that we can run simulations on and find what is important to us, that we can apply AI to learn, predict, and act, to save time and money, to reduce carbon, to preserve natural resources, to improve safety, to bring us all closer. This is already happening today. Across the world, organizations are taking advantage of this new wave of innovation that trends to an interconnectedness that enables the metaverse. Everything modeled in the metaverse mirrors the status of its physical twin, including the interactions and relations between everything else. By applying the power of the cloud, we eliminate boundaries of what this can do. The potential is limitless. We can now track and analyze data from connected environments to identify patterns, trends, and anomalies. We can now simulate any possibility, evaluate outcomes, determine the impact of any change or condition. We can now harness AI to perceive the physical world, to improve and automate tasks, to give superpowers to your frontline workers. We can now give everyone in your organization the power to build apps and workflows, to collaborate with each other in this virtual space, to share and receive expertise at the right time with the right context in front of you, to move through the physical world and get relevant information about its digital counterpart when and where you need, using mixed reality. The Microsoft Cloud brings these capabilities together with the limitless computing power of the cloud and intelligent devices at the edge, and creates this framework for building immersive and impactful digital twin, mixed reality, and metaverse solutions.
So this was a video that really inspired me. What also inspired me very much was a case that we have, and I thought, well, shall I mention it? But we work with a company called SSE Renewables, and SSE Renewables is building wind farms at sea. And one of the things we already do is have a digital twin of the windmills and of the whole operations, doing predictive maintenance. What we didn't have, and it's actually a demand from the Dutch government in building wind farms, is how can you predict and how can you monitor the impact on biodiversity? So on birds, on fish, and so on. And actually what SSE Renewables, Microsoft, and Accenture have built together is a digital twin of the biodiversity of a wind park. So really being able to count the birds without actually counting them by hand, but doing this with video, with image recognition. But also have an understanding of the sea life, what is happening below the water, and maybe connect that to the digital twin of the operations of the wind park itself. So these kind of examples are, for me, really inspiring of what we can do with data and AI. And I think it's important to understand that we often overestimate what we can do this year, next year, but we underestimate what we can do in 10 years. Things are going very rapidly, and I see, if we look at, for example, the human parity in speech, in image recognition, in language understanding, those things have reached a human parity, not being better than humans, but at least be at the same level, is something that has been developed in the last couple of years. And this is the amount of data and the amount of devices that we expect are going to, well, let's call it an explosion of data. And 40% of this data will be generated by AI itself. So AI will play a very important role in that. So how do we deal with that data? It's actually, this is the amount of data that we will produce in the next 3 years. It's comparable to what we did in the last 30 years. So what do we do with data? And I think data, the digital transformation consists of a number of data sets. So it's really about data about customers, about sentiments, it's about your operations, it's about your supply chain, for example, it's about products, and it's about employees. And there is a network, how these come together. And we see this as something that needs to come together, because if you analyze customer data or if you analyze your supply chain data, I think it only makes sense if this data can be combined. And I will show you an example how Tesla is doing this. So first of all, you need to collect the data. You need to use AI to make intelligent decisions on the data, and then push back the data to the intelligent edge devices. That can be a car, that can be a phone, that can be a sensor, whatever, in the network. So an example from Tesla is, you all know Tesla has this near automatic driving in their cars, but it happens quite often that the car is braking quite fiercely when you don't expect it to. And this comes back from customers who give their review, who complain about the car, for example, but this can be combined with the telemetry that comes out of the car. And by combining this data and using AI to improve the models and to improve, let's say, the algorithms that can be used to basically adapt this and make this make this more safe and more reliable for the user. These algorithms can be trained on data of hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of cars, and can be finally, and I think that's where it comes back, can be brought back to the car. So sometimes people think that a Tesla or an electric car or an intelligent car is connected to the cloud, and of course it is. But if something jumps for the car, it's the car who needs to have this intelligent algorithm at hand, being trained by thousands of devices, and bring that back. So looking at the digital feedback loop, it is really about combining this information and learn in all kind of hoops. This can also be very industry specific. So for example, to have smart lifecycle management. I already talked about predictive maintenance, for example. It's about intelligent design. It's about the telemetry that comes, for example, out of the product. It is about connected site and workers, feedback from people on the supply chain, or let's say on the production line, who complain, for example, about the quality in their complete process, or having improvements or suggestions for the products, and also, let's say, intelligent asset management in case of what I mentioned with the windmills. So behind this, it is all data, and today this data is not always in one. Let's say, even if you try to combine this data between consumers, products, processes, and so on, it's not in one system. And even behind this, if you look at customer data, it might be customer data that is sentiment analysis that you get from Twitter, or get from people who complain online. You have data in your service system so this data needs to come together, and I think this is one of the challenges that we currently have. And you can look at this from let's say, from an organizational perspective, and say, well, I'm Tesla, or I'm a company who needs to combine this data. But you can also look at this from an industry perspective. And this is why I like to highlight Catena X. I dare to say that the automotive industry is currently in a perfect storm. It's about electrification, it's about telemetry, it's about privacy, it's about all kind of things. It's about sustainability, and how do you react as a, in this case, predominantly German car industry to developments and to challengers like Tesla. So Catena X is the industry hub for the automotive industry, where over 1,000 companies work together in sharing data and using this data in an intelligent way. And this data really goes from suppliers, and suppliers, you have direct suppliers, you have indirect suppliers in a network, but there are also financing companies, there are leasing companies, there are companies who help you help these companies with their digital environment, like Microsoft, for example, in the software-defined car. But it's also about circularity. It's about keeping track of what has been built into these cars, and how to best recycle them, for example. So these companies have decided to work together, and it's based on the principles of Gaia X. And Gaia X, like IDSA, is very much, I would almost say, driven by the Fraunhofer Institute, for example, and in the Netherlands by TNO, and is really about getting into standards and making sure we have the right standards, the right technology agreements to build these trust networks, because it's really about trust, because people like to share their information, but of course this information is maybe your information that you like to keep, but maybe like to share to people that you trust because of their supply chain or because of things. And what in Catena X has been done is there is a number of companies led by BMW, Bosch, Daimler, but also SAP, Microsoft, AWS, who finally decided also to implement this not only from an architectural and standard perspective, but also build a tool set how to build such a data hub. And of course, it is important that this will be developed based on open standards, so that everyone can be interoperable to this network, but also can participate with their own technology. And you don't have to choose, for example, to put everything in a technology that is called Microsoft or AWS or SAP. So I really like this example, and what we call this is called the Eclipse Data Connector. That is basically the platform that we are currently building, that is hosted by an open source foundation. It's called Eclipse. That's why it's called the Eclipse Data Connector. It is chaired by the Fraunhofer Institute, Professor Boris Otto, who's leading that and making sure that it is something that can be shared. The use cases that they're trying to achieve are, first of all, really about supply chain. It is about traceability, but it's also about proving CO2 footprint, those kind of things. So the use cases that are highlighted here are about circularity, footprint, and mobility as a service. These are the companies who are currently driving the EDC data connector, and what we see is a development of change of how you share data. So it's not longer one-on-one or in a small close group, but it's really about sharing it with a very large group. And what I think is important to understand, that these groups may overlap. So if VDL, for example, is part of the Catena X network or data hub, it can also be part of the Smart Connected Supplier Network, for example. And these networks overlap, so we call this federated data hubs. And I think it's very important to understand and to see how we can have this federation work in practice and not make sure that you have to work in different data hubs in different ways. And this is a slide that I like to close with a small example.
Welcome to McDonald's. May I take your order? Yes, I would like 2 Happy Meals, 1 cheeseburger and 1 chicken McNugget, both with fries and apples.
And let me stop here, because it's just if we look at these examples. So the first one is really, if we talk about the metaverse, it's about virtual reality. How can you use virtual reality to make things, let's say, to connect the physical world with the digital world? It is about language understanding. In the example of McDonald's, I always have very much difficulty to understand someone when you're standing at that pillar and trying to make your order. So I can imagine that's the same at the other side, but we are currently already in a phase where artificial intelligence can understand by language understanding and making the order without typing in things or doing this kind of things. Also in healthcare, we like to apply this to situations for doctors when they have a conversation with their patients, to make sure that we use language understanding to make a report, and an accurate report of what's being discussed, so that people can read it afterwards, for example. So the options are already there. We also, and this is an example of holograms. So if we think that we are far away from a metaverse where you can actually participate with others in a room while you're not physically there, this is an example where one of our leaders is explaining and demonstrating on stage a hologram, where this hologram, and I'm thankful for turning off the sound, but this hologram is actually speaking Japanese. So we can also use this in an example where we talk to people in their own language. And I had a conversation last week about ethics and AI with ECP, and there was someone from a municipality who said, well, I'm involved with people who are, let's say, who need support and with their income and all kind of things. I don't think we can apply this for our municipality. And then someone from the municipality of Rotterdam said, but what if you enter a room and there is a hologram who can help you in your own language and speaks 60 languages? So I think the possibilities are endless. So it's about spatial maps, it's understanding what this room looks like, for example, but it's also about understanding depth and understanding where things are in a room that you can use. And then maybe the last one, it's about streaming and remote rendering. And all the examples that you see here are already there. So this is an example, and I'm not sure if it is really about genomics, it's about data. We just opened a Microsoft Research Institute together with the University of Amsterdam, Max Welling, who is looking into computational chemistry, deep learning, and try to understand what we need for our air carbon capture, for example, or to develop medicines. And that was what I like to say, to present today. So,
well, thank you so very much, Rob. Wonderful. And thank you for sharing the cool stuff at the end, because yes, that is what is happening now, and here and now, one could say. Okay, just a couple of minutes left for some urgent questions or remarks. Yes, the lady here in front. You will please try to catch the box.
Your video at the beginning talks about the limitless power of the cloud. How do you square that with sustainability?
The limitless.
Oh, it's a good question. I think cloud, let's say, has already contributed very much to sustainability by, let's say, if you see the explosion of data, internet use, and those kind of things, the amount of electricity that has been used in the last 10 years has not grown that much. I don't think we will keep up with that because the explosion of data, we're currently at a phase where we have a power usage efficiency that is, I would say, almost half of that what we used 10 years ago. So I think cloud technology is using renewable technology. I think cloud technology is used or is needed also to facilitate the energy transition. So to make sure that we have a new mechanisms, I would almost call the Internet of Energy. So I think cloud can contribute, and at the same time, it is a consolidation of energy, of water, and those kind of things, but makes it very visible how much our, well, I would almost say our digital economy is demanding from our energy system. So it is, I don't have the solution yet. So we are in a data economy, digital economy. We're growing very fast. I think cloud can contribute by that, but I also think it still requires a dialogue with all parties. Is this how we?
What is the direction to take?
Exactly.
Great. Thank you for the question. Yeah, lady in front. Yeah. Oops. Oh, great. Well done.
Thank you very much for your insightful overview.
Tell us your name, please.
I'm Carmen van Vilsten. I'm the director of MTIC and chair of the top sector Life Science and Health. I was wondering, in your Eclipse example, I couldn't see that fast. Is there also the driver involved? And that means that you have GDPR sensitive information like we had with the previous speaker. So what is is there a similarity between the data sharing problems from healthcare to
mobility?
Mobility? Yeah, that's my question.
I think it's a good question, but I'm not sure if I can answer it. So, so if you look at the Eclipse, let's say the Catena X example, that's what you mean. Is the driver involved, or
exactly? Is the information about the driver involved as well? So, location, or
I must say I'm not that aware of that situation. I'm pretty sure that happens with Tesla already. So Tesla is looking at that. I think the state where the Catena X currently is how can we build a trusted data network to exchange this data. So I don't think we are already there yet in applying all the artificial intelligence across this data. So it's really about how can we share data between Bosch, Siemens, BMW and Mercedes without sharing competitive information or those kind of things. So I don't think we're there yet on that scale.
Okay. Also not, GDPR is not an issue for you yet, privacy issues from patients.
I think
from drivers, sorry.
Yeah, no, so I think GDPR is definitely a thing that is being discussed in that, from that sense. Also the ownership of the data. So for example, if your car is sending out information about braking, about, let's say, the engine, about how much you stop, Does that information, is that ownership of BMW? Is that your ownership? Where you drive, for example? So there are a lot of privacy-related questions and GDPR questions related
in
to
the
cars.
system of the Catena X. Yeah, wonderful, thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for coffee. And then we will split up for just a couple of hours before meeting up again here at the end, when we have here at the end Yaya Balou, the security expert and Chief Innovation Security Officer at Avast Software. But before we are at that point, we will split up in those 4 different tracks: the research, the expert, the adoption, and the startup track. So I kindly invite you now for a coffee, and then I ask you to be well in time to start with the morning track, and then after lunch, we have plenty of time to network and to meet up and to team up with one another. And then again, our tracks will continue before then we will meet here later on this afternoon. So thank you very much. All this was an introduction for your own work, because it's up to you now. Once more, a thank to Rob for joining us here today.